Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Hash, your daily beat on crypto and culture. My name is Naomi Brockwell, and I'm delighted to be joined by other wonderful co-hosts. We have Ben Powers, Sanasie, Will Foxley, Zack, Seward. We are starting off another wonderful week of The Hash. Let's kick it off and start talking about Galaxy. What we got there? Will?
That's right. In the week that Coinbase is going public, we also have Galaxy Digital filing an ETF with the SEC for some Bitcoin exposure. This is a pretty interesting product, and a lot of different companies are vying for this same kind of Bitcoin exposure for like the normal investor out there. You can get this kind of ETF product in your normal portfolio, like your IRA through like Schwab or some other provider for securities. And like, it's been pretty tough to get this through the SEC over the years. So it's interesting to see that Galaxy Digital is throwing their ring into the hat, or their hat into the ring as well. And I don't know if it will happen. It may take a while for it to occur, but I want to give it to Zack, who wrote the story up. What is your take on it? I think there's like 12 of these out now. Is that right?
So there are 9 active ones out now as of the latest filing. So 9 of these things are sitting in front of the SEC. They are currently actively reviewing. They're reviewing 2 of them. The other 7, my understanding is that something needs to happen on the exchange listing side for the SEC to start kicking the tires. So, I think, again, the Bitcoin ETF is the white whale of the crypto industry. A lot of people think this will be a catalytic moment for U.S. crypto traders because, Will, like you said, I mean, you can just put it in your IRA, click the button on Fidelity or whatever your platform of choice is, and you have indirect exposure to Bitcoin without having to deal with Bitcoin itself. So, but again, the SEC has been really, really reluctant to approve these. They've swatted down like dozens of these things over the years, citing concerns about market manipulation and the shallow depths of some Bitcoin markets. So whether this is going to be the one that breaks the camel's back is still very much unclear, but certainly a lot of people are trying to get this thing over the finish line. Galaxy is involved in one in Canada, which is taking the lead. Shout out to Jen and our neighbors to the north.
Yep, I was going to say, we already have 3 up here.
Yeah, they're a sub-advisor on that third one. So they're hoping that expertise is assuring for U.S. regulated. And we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a waiting game with all these products, which is a bummer because there's already some similar products that are on the market, and those products are more expensive because the SEC is kind of delaying the the ability for investors to get exposure to Bitcoin. Like, of course, you can go buy Bitcoin, but if you want to have it in traditional account, if you're more inclined to use like a financial advisor, you have to use one of the permissioned finance platforms that are already out there, like the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust or anything similar to that. And there's a premium typically for purchasing those financial products, which if Bitcoin is about bringing financial freedom to the market for the individual, then you have like this very odd situation where you have the SEC not allowing a Bitcoin product to be put in someone's financial package. So I don't know, that's always interesting to me, how you can't like get that exposure. But I get back to you, Zack.
Yeah, I mean, you're just setting the stage for why something like MicroStrategy has been so popular, right? We talk about it often, these Bitcoin proxy stocks, of which Coinbase is about to be the most epic proxy stock. But when that Bitcoin ETF happens, hey, the picture could change for MicroStrategy, Square to a certain extent, Tesla, which has Bitcoin exposure, and of course, the big one, Coin, coming later this week. Naomi, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you've had Hester Peirce, SEC Commissioner, talk about the SEC's relationship with ETFs in the past. And she's talked about how, she's had some criticism, actually, of how the SEC has handled this. The SEC has said it many times, well, this asset's really volatile, it's too risky and all this. And Hester has come in and said, well, actually, it's overstepping for the SEC to preclude these things to come to market. The SEC's job is not to stop these things. It's to say, well, are there enough, signposts on there letting people know that these things are volatile? Is there enough education going on here? So it is strange that we still haven't got an ETF. They're still just like, nope, just got to stop that right there. So I agree with Hester Peirce there. And it is interesting because when you have these proxy stocks like MicroStrategy and Coinbase, as the SEC going to jump in and say, well, you can't trade these anymore because they're volatile as well. I mean, if you're going to have the same type of movement with these proxy stocks, then that should be a reason. But I honestly think, I think the SEC is just wary of crypto in general and really kind of fighting a war against it right now. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was actually just wanting to pass it back off to Zack. Zack, you've been following this for so long. How long do you think it's going to be before the SEC actually approves one of these ETFs?
I don't know, but it reminds me of that Titanic gif of the old lady, and she's like, 84 years. That's what the feeling is. So I don't know. I have no ability to look into the future, but having been in this industry covering it for 2 years and change, it feels like at least 84 right now. But I have no idea. We're just gonna have to see. Will, do you have an idea?
No, I don't. But I want to ask you a question really quick. As an editor who's been following this for 2-3 years now, do you kind of see there's an uptick in the number of ETFs that are being filed with the SEC during a bull run, or does it really not matter what's going on with the Bitcoin price?
I would say so. I think that's a very astute observation. I think a lot of people are rushing into, like you said, give investors who prefer traditional access, like proxy access to this asset. I think there's a major land grab to be the first US Bitcoin ETF to be approved. And we've seen a number of like really big players step in. Wisdom Tree is the one that's being reviewed by the SEC now. There's several other very prominent firms that I'm totally forgetting right now who have submitted Bitcoin ETF applications to the SEC just in the last month. So yeah.
It's a lot of stuff for the SEC to get through. They're apparently going through every cryptocurrency. They're going through all these ETFs. They're just working their way through the crypto space.
They're really busy over there.
They're really busy shutting down innovation there. But let's see what happens with the ruling. Maybe another 85 years, and we'll get there.
All right. Speaking of SEC forms, did you see that transition, Ben? That's a shout out to Ben. Speaking of SEC forms, CoinDesk has reported that billionaire investor Daniel Loeb is all in on Bitcoin and other crypto assets based on SEC filings that were unearthed by reporter Danny Nelson on Friday. So this is a $17 billion hedge fund. We did this story. He didn't comment. And then we tweeted this story. And then he quote retweeted this story and said, outed as a hodler. And then he changed his Twitter avatar to laser eyes. If that's not confirmation, I don't know what is, folks. But anyway, this sort of follows the trend of, billionaire investors sort of announcing. Typically, they sort of announce that they're like looking into this space. I'm kind of interested. I'm thinking about it. I'm doing my research. And then sure enough, the filings come out without much announcement, without much fanfare. And it shows that they are indeed taking the deep dive in this instance. Those were his words at the time. So yeah, this is the latest billionaire to be flagged as someone who is voting with their wallet on some of these assets. Super interesting, really big story. I don't know, my question is, maybe the laser eyes thing? Will, do you got something for me?
No, I just have a request for the show. Like, we need some sort of like Danny button whenever he gets one of these scoops. Like, just
good idea.
Totally,
like an air horn
comes up. I don't know. Yeah, like a Danny Nelson button. Yeah,
and a Danny counter.
We could have like a little counter, like days since Danny scoop, and it'd be like 0 or like 1.
His man is rolling out though. I'm very impressed.
It's scoop season. Yeah. Okay.
There's like the larger picture. I think it's interesting. We're seeing another billionaire move into the space, and I think he's even staking some assets, which is like the next tier of involvement in Bitcoin or involvement in crypto itself. You can buy Bitcoin, you can hold it, put it in a wallet. That's typically like pretty advanced, and it's actually kind of scary when you're first getting into the space, being like putting Bitcoin into a cold wallet. Like, there's a lot of room for messing up and losing your Bitcoin. But this guy's going on to Coinbase and he's staking funds, which is pretty interesting that he's involved with those more bleeding edge applications of crypto. Coinbase also just being the center of conversation for anything finance and crypto, like anything in that middle sphere. Coinbase is getting that action, which kind of points to a nice piece that Brady Dale posted last week about where does Coinbase go from here? Is it the Blockbuster or is it the Netflix of the next generation of finance? And if Coinbase continues to kind of pick up these investors, then I think they're the Netflix. They can just keep facilitating these buys, facilitating ownership of digital assets, facilitate staking, and be kind of like a SaaS platform for cryptocurrencies. But great piece by Brady. Go and read it. I'd suggest that. But giving to you, Naomi.
Yeah, I'll mention that, a lot of people pointing to these billionaires and these big hedge funds coming into crypto as saying, well, that's confirmation that Bitcoin is safe. I might push back on that a little bit. I personally think that Bitcoin won't be stopped. It's decentralized. It can't be. But it doesn't preclude the US government from trying. And just because these big players are getting involved, I mean, these people have a lot to lose. If the US government were to make regulation around cryptocurrency or Bitcoin in particular, these would be the first people to toe the line, right? So they're not going to jeopardize their $17 billion portfolio, their relationship with all of these regulatory agencies, and keep delving in something that the government doesn't want to exist. So I do think that it's a little bit of a misdirect for people to say, well, this is evidence that this is unstoppable and all this. No, I think the evidence that it's unstoppable is that you have people all over the world involved with this, not just because big players with a lot to lose and a lot that the government can leverage are getting involved. But that being said, I don't want to see this as a downer. Like, I think it's really awesome that more people are getting involved. This is just one person that's been outed through awesome reporting, but I'm sure that there are so many other people out there who are involved and we just don't know about it, which is pretty cool to see, and to see how far Bitcoin has come in the last 12 years. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just evidence of how well Coinbase has positioned itself, like, as the institutional broker here, right? So I think they had their earnings call the other week, and they said we have something like $215 billion on platform, and something like half of that, like 122 billion, I think, was from institutional investors. So this to me is evidence of, like, here's another name, right? We heard about Paul Tudor Jones, we heard about reports on Tesla, we heard about One River Digital and other big firms, and this to me is part of that story. Again, we don't know how much is on there. We don't know which assets, but the fact that, staking is included in these documents is something that this firm is willing to entertain does really speak to Will's point that this is sort of potentially the next step for what the institutional investor is looking to do. And again, Coinbase with its Bison Trails acquisition and its ability to sort of provide some of this stuff from its own platform is really interesting. I'm going to kick this to Ben. What's your latest takeaway from this reporting?
I mean, I think this is good for Coinbase, right? They're going public. Like, this is just another kind of data point and a feather in their cap about somebody custodying with them. And, Danny Nelson turned it up. But I think that it also shows that there are a lot of people doing this and just not saying it very loudly, Zach, as you were saying. And I think that shows the overall strength behind this sort of run that we're seeing at the moment. But yeah, Coinbase is going to continue to probably scoop up some people like this, and we'll be waiting on their filings.
What have they gone public yet? Are they like, what time does it happen? When does this occur?
When is the Super Bowl? It happens on April 14th, and that's when the public listing happens. I think that's Wednesday. 2 more days.
Thursday.
I think it's the
Thursday.
14th.
Okay. Wednesday, for sure.
Pretty sure it's the 14th, and I may not be doing the math right, but I'm pretty sure it's the 14th is when the listing occurs. It goes on NASDAQ. Clearly, we're seeing lots of big valuation numbers being bandied about, but time will tell when that happens what the ultimate big number is. Jen, give me something before we close, before we go to break.
We have to go to break. I do have
we got to go to break.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jen.
Let's just we have to go to break.
Justin, we have to go to break. I've heard that there's a break thing. Okay, we're going to go to break. And when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about NFTs. Major League Baseball is trying to do its own NBA Top Shot in partnership
Naomi's
with
favorite
trading card company Topps. Stick with us. It's going to be super fun.
Top Shot.
All right. Thanks for being on the hash with us. Bye for now.
and welcome back to The Hash. So I have a little confirmation to make. Coinbase is going public on Wednesday, the 14th. We had a little bit of confusion before the break, but that's all clear now. And so let's head into the next story. Sports and NFTs. That just seems to really be my beat these days. 83-year-old card company Topps has announced that it plans to go public and will be issuing baseball cards as NFTs in partnership with the MLB Players Association. So they're debuting on the Wax blockchain this month, and all baseball fans out there will have a chance to start collecting these digital collectibles. So I'm just going to pass this right on over to the sports desk. Zach, you were up late editing the story.
I was indeed. We got out the door for the early morning embargo time. But yeah, this is, to me, the story of, well, first of all, this is sort of the second major U.S. sports league to grant its license to an NFT project. So NBA Top Shot being chief among them, they partnered with Dapper Labs to make this thing work. It was a really proof of concept, and in some respects was a big sort of catalytic driver for this mainstream craziness about NFTs that we're currently barely living through. So MLB is the second league to like officially grant its license. We've seen sort of one-offs from various players, including MLB players, but notably they didn't have the team logos because they didn't have the MLB license. So this one is with Topps. They've long held this license in the trading card realm, and they're doing it with NFTs now. It's well timed. They are going public at a $1.3 billion valuation through a SPAC deal. The funny thing to me is that reportedly Dapper Labs is worth twice that at $2.6 billion. So that just goes to show you how the upstarts can often turn things on their heads. So that's the story. They're not as like cool looking as the Top Shots, in my opinion. They're kind of just more like the cards. But hey, maybe that's cool. Maybe that's a thing that people will like. So, we'll see what happens with it. What do you got, Will?
What is a Wax blockchain? Can you explain that to me?
I'll tell you about that. I can tell you what that is. It is a fork of the EOS.io software, the software that runs the EOS blockchain. So it is a fork of EOS.io, Will. Take it away. Delegated proof of stake. It's something like the native currency, 165th largest cryptocurrency last I checked on CoinGecko, but I don't know. Could be different painful now. I'm just telling you, man.
At least Dapper had a reason for leaving. Like they couldn't process the fees enough, so they started their own chain. And it was like even before the NFT thing exploded. So that's good for Dapper, but this is just kind of sad in my opinion. And then the cards themselves are kind of lame. Like Dapper puts so much energy into making those cards actually like pretty cool looking. Like you got to see like a little moment in time and have that like on your phone. You don't really get that with these cards, so I'm kind of down on it.
Well, that was my next question. The cards are really just digital versions of the static baseball cards. I think the borders move, but NBA Top Shop, you get like cool little highlight reels. So do you think that they can catch up? Do you think they're going to see the same kind of traction as NBA Top Shop?
I don't know. No. I don't know. Yeah, probably not. So NBA Top Shot, like if you look at the data, like NBA Top Shot sort of like peaked in terms of like daily volume in late February. It's still very like robust, but it's definitely dipped off quite a bit. So, whether they can sort of like reignite the fire around, trading cards on a blockchain, very much to be determined. I don't know. It could happen. Jen, what do you think?
I want to know what Will thinks. He just threw his hand back up. I don't think they're going to.
I think anything with like a sports memorabilia will have some sort of price floor at least, and like it will kind of change depending on like where we are at in the season. So I expect like NBA Top Shot to go back up during like the playoffs or the NBA finals, and probably similar with like these MLB cards. Like they'll have some sort of price, kind of like any jersey has some sort of price just because it's been licensed by the team. I think these cards are in the same way. So there might be some sort of like bifurcation in the NFT market between like officially licensed stuff with like copyrights and kind of digital art that we just see like one-off creators make. There could be like a huge, I think, change in the NFT market. That's my insights. I'm no connoisseur in NFT world, but that's what I think.
Well, I would love to add my thoughts on sports in general because I enjoy talking about sports a lot.
Nice.
But I'm actually going to change track now. I'm going to talk about Binance. So they recently announced that they are going to allow users to trade tokenized stock tokens, and they're starting with Tesla. This is pretty interesting. This is kind of a new phenomenon. We saw synthetics back in the day trying to do this. They never really got their synthetic stocks off the ground. They did manage to move into commodities. They're doing like gold and silver and oil recently. You did have other companies start to look at this, like Mirror Protocol, but now Binance is turning to this, which I think is huge because so many people use Binance, and this is going to give a lot of people access to these things. So I'm gonna just throw this over to Zack. What are your thoughts on Binance now offering Tesla stock or a tokenized form of it?
All right. Well, I was looking into this and I was really curious about it because I remember we covered the Mirror Protocol launch last December. And so the Mirror Protocol, like you mentioned, it's synthetic versions, right? They're mirrored to the value of actual equities. These are like actual equities, right? Binance partnered with, I think it was like an investment firm in Germany and like a security token outfit in Switzerland, I think. So this is like you're actually buying increments of actual securities through the Binance platform. So I thought that was actually quite notable, and that they're willing to do this is interesting, and maybe there's a market there for that. There is an underlying like securities aspect to this thing that is interesting and a diversion from the more decentralized approach that Mirror and others have taken. So that was like the thing that I honed in on. I don't know if that's the big picture, but with this, if this were to see traction, that would be actually really quite interesting for what the next chapter for a giant platform like Binance could be.
For sure. And I have a question. Is this just being offered to people outside of the US? Like, what is this? Because, I mean, generally people outside of the US would have a lot of trouble accessing American stocks unless they're also traded on their native stock exchanges. And so this seems like it is going to open up the world of American finance to a lot of people. Or am I misunderstanding that?
I think that is correct. It is, US investors do not have access to this, but yeah, it's mostly for global markets as a way to get access to the U.S. equities market, which certainly has a lot of upside for traders globally. So yeah, that's on the access side potentially really interesting.
I mean, isn't that crazy how Binance, which is, operates many different branches all over the world, is offering this, but Binance US is not, and it's not available in the US, but it's an American stock that is being traded. Like, that kind of blows my mind that America is shutting off all of these opportunities and the rest of the world is saying, all right, we'll figure out a way to leverage this technology and, make the most of these opportunities that America is passing up. Like, it's kind of fascinating to me that they would willingly give this up. And I think it speaks to sort of the segregation of law enforcement and people who want to see America prosper. You got people whose charter is, well, we're just enforcing this law. That's our entire job description. We're just looking at that purview. And they're kind of missing the bigger picture, which is that a lot of people are missing out on great opportunities because of bad laws that, have to be enforced. So it's kind of sad. I don't know, Ben, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of, we were talking about Bitcoin ETFs earlier. Like, the US does not move quickly in a lot of cases when it comes to this, and particularly when it comes to financial regulation. It's quite cautious. So, I think they also could just be seeing, how this plays out in other places. And honestly, I think it makes all the sense in the world that Tesla is a stock that's getting traded in this sort of way, just because of the popularity of Elon Musk in this space, and that also just being an incredibly valuable stock. So to me, that choice was a little bit more for the clout and the clicks and those sorts of things, but it's something we're going to have to see and probably wait, months, if not years, to see if the US does anything similar to this.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we saw the exchange's native token, Binance Coin, it surged in the past 24 hours, more than 25%. So that's pretty interesting that they launched this thing and suddenly their chain goes crazy. Zack?
Yeah, I saw that the Binance USD, so BUSD, will be like the token pair here. But yeah, if people are sort of forecasting their desire for Binance to grow in value, then I guess the BNB thing would make sense. But hey, who knows? Let's change gears. Ben, I think you're going to take us home. What do you got?
Yeah, so Jack Ma's Ant Group is going to become a financial holding company under a central government or central bank-backed sort of revamp, we can call it. Now, this comes days after an antitrust fine occurred against Ant Group, and kind of shows, the way that the central bank here is coming and weighing in heavily on one of China's most valuable companies. But Naomi, as our resident, I hate when the government gets involved and makes choices for us. What have you got on this one?
Are you typecasting me, Ben? I resent that.
Absolutely not.
I think it's interesting. I mean, this sort of antitrust case, it's really not that much different from US antitrust cases against Microsoft, et cetera. The government is being threatened by a really large company, and so they're trying to restructure it so that that threat is, put on a leash. And so that's essentially what's happening here. Now, Ant Group is formerly known as Ant Financial, Alipay. It is like the world's largest payment platform, right? And so I can understand if China is looking into going into a digital yuan, and they're wanting complete control over that. We've talked about the details of this yuan. Programmable money would enable them to have more surveillance on this. It would enable them to, very easily freeze funds. It would enable them to, automatically deduct payments from people if they wanted to. Like, there are all kinds of things that come along with this that increase the government's control. So if they have a rival, and we always thought that, and Jack Ma has always said that, Alipay and what they're doing there would work and coincide with the central bank digital currency. They would work in tandem, and one would not supplant the other. But now we're seeing the government crack down on the private enterprise doing this. So I really do think it's just a sign that Chinese government is just really trying to take back control here, and sees what Alipay and Ant Group are doing right now as a threat. So, Zack, what are your thoughts?
I was just trying to do what you did and read between the lines, because I think you're absolutely right. This feels very sort of like akin or reminiscent to when everyone in the US got upset about Libra, right? You have these private stable coins versus potentially, central bank public digital currencies. And so this tension, I think, is really interesting to see play out in different jurisdictions. And, I think we care about this at CoinDesk because it's, that's the story here, right? It's the payments. It's the payments, and whether people are going to be able to, vote with their wallets and use the one that is best suited to their interests, or whether, they will be blocked from doing so, as we may be seeing here. So that you got what I had, and you did it better than me. So I'm going to keep going this way to Ben, or this way, and see what he says. Yeah. Ben, what do you got?
No, absolutely. I think this is really like a huge clash and one we might see in the future. We talk a lot about sort of more authoritarian tendencies of China and the like, but this is a really kind of focused and coercive way of breaking up and breaking down a company that's incredibly powerful within that country and directly involved in a huge payments infrastructure. So, I think the Chinese government here has effectively kind of said, okay, private sector, that's cute, but we're going to step in now, and we're going to break down some of the barriers to, all of this information and the bodies that are facilitating private payments. So looking at sort of CBDCs and how those move forward, I think we'll see a couple of different lines that those take, but this seems to be, in a sense, one way of that happening, particularly as you see countries around the world talk about all the different ways they want to have, be interacting with the private sector in relation to CBDCs, and they want to have mutual support. This seems to be going in a very different direction, one we're going to be really interested in continuing to follow. But continuing around the horn, Jen, what you got?
Well, Ben, I just want to zoom out and ask you what, if anything, this means for people who are outside of China who participate in Alipay or use Ant Group's financial products?
That's a great question, and one that I'm not perfectly clear on at the moment. This is, kind of a very specific tailored action, and it's going to have restructuring consequences that are probably going to ripple out. But at this time, I can't speak directly to kind of what the implications may be beyond the borders. But Naomi, you got your hand up.
Yeah, it's not directly related to that, but it's just what the Chinese government did last year. So Ant Group was set to raise $34 billion in the world's largest IPO, and the Chinese government stepped in and said, nope. So this does have broader effects like that. I think they were going to be on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. They were going to be on Beijing. And then governments just said no. And so I really do think that, again, they're just trying to rein in that control. And it does affect people like the public who may want to participate participate in this because they're really just breaking them up. And they said, Ant would cut the improper linkage between payment service Alipay, the virtual credit card business, GBay, and consumer loan unit Huawei. So, the language that's used here, like it's just very submissive. This improper linkage, yes, we will get rid of that. I'm so sorry we created this empire of useful services and have all of these branches that are servicing people. Please, you are right to break it up, government, and cease to stop us providing those services to people because you are the only true people who can provide the people's services. So, it's I don't think it's actually that far removed from what the American government does in terms of these types of antitrust situations. But it's obviously the language is a lot more to the point here. Like the government isn't hiding behind anything. They're not saying it's in the people's best interest. They're just saying we're going to break you up. And these are improper linkages and all of that, which is interesting.
Okay,
Zack.
I'm going to do an antitrust enforcement action on smart takes because we got too many going on. It's too successful. We're going to have to put the brakes on it, and we're going to have to wrap the hash for Monday, April 12th on that
Pure
note.
market domination.
Just the domination. The domination is too much in the smart take department, so we need to foster a more competitive environment in the marketplace. Sorry, Naomi. We're gonna wrap here. It's been the hash. I'm Zach. That's Naomi. We got Ben, Jen, Will. Gang's all here. We'll be here again tomorrow. It's super fun. We talk about crypto news and why it matters. If you want to watch more great CoinDesk TV programming, stick around. 3 p.m. All about Bitcoin is happening. And then more stuff is happening in the morning, which is fun. So watch that too. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. Welcome to the new week, and we'll see you soon. All right. See ya.
Bye.